I went to the Olympics. I'm now a mother of 3, and let me tell you, being a mother of 3 makes training for the Olympics look like going to Disneyland. It's friggin' hard. So all you moms and dads out there, more power to you. You got a lot of stamina, but I want to acknowledge the land I'm on, the Mi'kmaq people, the chiefs, elders, and also the NAG Games staff for the 2020 Games. I have a love for the NAG Games. I competed in the very first Games when I was 14 years old, and I remember talking about my dreams of going to the Olympics. But my mom always reminds me, when I come to Mi'kmaq territory, to always acknowledge the historical treaties that our people have with each other, between the Mohawk and the Mi'kmaq people. We have a treaty of alliance. And a lot of Mi'kmaq have come to Mohawk territory when we have called for help during the Oka crisis. And so she always tells them, when you go there, tell them that you want to honor the treaty, but remind them you're only visiting. So don't stir up too much stuff there and that you're going to go home after. So you're just visiting. So I'm just visiting. I won't cause too much trouble while I'm here. But I'm sure I'm actually paired up with the RCMP officer, so he's keeping me in line. I don't know, you Mi'kmaq's got a secret service going on here. I had this crazy dream. I was the same age as a lot of you guys here. I had this crazy dream I wanted to go to the Olympics. And why is that crazy? Well, when I was a kid, this is the late 70s, early 80s, I was raised by a single mom. My dad wasn't around. He went to residential school, and he just didn't know how to be a father. And often with my mother and my 3 sisters, we didn't have a lot. We didn't have heat sometimes. We didn't have food sometimes. But my mother was a fighter, and she wanted to do one thing. She wanted to give us the opportunity to go after our dreams. And so my mom moved us from Kahnawake to Ottawa. She rented a 2-bedroom apartment across from the YMCA. She rented out the 2 bedrooms to 2 elders, and we used to sleep on a pull-out couch. And with that extra money, she bought us a membership at the YMCA. And that's where I first got my chance to get into sports. My mother practically begged, borrowed, and stole to get me where I needed to go. And as I got better and better in my sports, it got more expensive. I trained very hard. And when I was about 11 and 12 years old, I was training 11, 12 times a week. And I became provincial champion in swimming when I was 11, 12, and 13 years old. And you know, the whole time during my athletic career, I never saw very few Native people. I was the only Native person. I had a crazy name, like Waneek. I was one of the first kids being named a traditional name. And I heard a lot about what people thought we were capable of. I heard that Indigenous people, Native people, that we were lazy, that we were quitters, that we couldn't make it. We were talented, but we didn't know how to work hard. And I was only 10 years old when I heard this stuff. And it was really hard. And I used to ask my mother, is that true? And she goes, no, you get in the pool, you show them. And I did. But you know what? Dreams are special because they're very hard. When you see those athletes at the Olympics and they're standing on top of the podium and they're crying, they're happy they won, but they're crying remembering all the times they almost quit, almost gave up, those things that happened in their lives that were so hard and often traumatic that it almost stopped them in their tracks. And for me, that happened when I was 14 years old. It's hard enough being a teenager, let alone being in the middle of something called the Oka crisis. How many of you guys have ever heard of the Oka crisis in school? Anybody ever heard of it? Well, the Oka crisis happened in my community and our partner community of Kahnawake. We were defending our land against the expansion of a 9-hole golf course to an 18-hole golf course. It wound up including 8,000 Canadian Armed Forces that surrounded both of our communities. I was 14 at the time. I witnessed race riots. I witnessed stoning of our elders' cars. And I witnessed also the pride and power of our people. And I got to spend a lot of time with some incredible Mi'kmaq people who came down when we called for their help. And I remember in the worst and the most stressful times, you know who the first person to crack a joke was? The Mi'kmaq people. And I remember that. They always used to tell me, no matter how stressful it gets, Waneek, never lose your sense of humor. And you know what? That paid off all the way at the Olympics. I remember being my whole team being stressed out, chewing on their nails, almost crying, and I'd crack a joke. And they look at me like I was insane. I'm like, you have no idea who I learned that from, but those Mi'kmaq, they know. But what happened during that crisis to me, at the very end, on September 26th, 1990, while holding my little sister, who was 4 years old at the time, I got stabbed in the chest by a Canadian soldier. It was right over my heart, and had it been a centimeter each way, it would have gone right into my heart. After that, I suffered a lot from post-traumatic stress disorder. You've heard a lot about that. Anxiety, panic attacks, depression. But the one thing gift my mother gave me, she gave me sports. And I went back to sports. But the one thing that pushed me back to my sports was I did not leave. When I left the Oka crisis, I stayed in my room for 6 days. I shut the windows. I was terrified to leave my room. And on the 6th day, my mother came in my room and she sat down on the bed and she said, "What do you want to do? What do you want to do?" And I said, "I want to stay right here. I'm safe in my room. I want to quit everything." I was terrified to leave. And she looked at me, she says, "You have every reason to quit. But you had this dream of going to the Olympics. And you're starting to show signs that you could make that dream come true. If you give up now, you will be the victim of that soldier who stabbed you for the rest of your life." And she said, "You know what? Everybody would understand. And I'll support whatever you decide to do." And she stood up and she was walking to my door of my bedroom and she had her hand on the doorknob and then she turned around and she pointed at me. She said, "But you remember, I did not raise you to be anybody's victim." And she left my room. And you know what? That's exactly what I needed to hear. I wasn't willing to give up my dream and be someone's victim for the rest of my life and tell everybody that I had this potential, but I was too afraid. And you know what? I went back to water polo, and exactly 10 years after that happened to me, I was walking into the opening ceremonies of the Olympic Games as captain of the Canadian women's water polo team. And if you had asked me right after those games, where are you going to be in 10 years, I would have thought maybe dead or maybe in jail. I never thought I would go to the Olympics. But every day I fought, and I fought. And you know what made me fight? I thought about our ancestors. All of them who sacrificed for us to be here. And all of them who never gave up. They didn't have the luxury to give up. The fact that we're all here today is because we come from a people who are the smartest, the toughest, the strongest, the best hunters, the best runners, because they lived in a time and a place where they could not be lazy. They could not be quitters. They had to keep going. And the reason why they kept going is so that all of us could be here. So when I thought of giving up, when it got hard, when I got scared, I thought about them. But I thought about, oh, how do I honor them? We honor their sacrifice not by hurting ourselves, not by hurting each other, not by reliving their trauma. We do it by doing things they never had the chance to do because they were too busy surviving. We have to be the strongest, the happiest, the bravest, the most amazing version of ourselves. We need to smile and laugh and love because they were too busy just surviving to do all that. So when you go out there in your games and you go on the field and you go in your competition, you honor them by being the happiest, the most positive Mi'kmaq people you can be because that's what they wanted. That's what they fought for. I'm excited because I'm going to get to see all of you compete this week. I'm so honored to be here. I'm so honored that Leroy still thinks I'm a I'm relevant. You know, and I look at these young athletes, and when I was 14 years old at the Indigenous Games, another Olympian came to see me compete. His name was Alwyn Morris. And he looked at me and he said, "You have the potential, keep going. Keep showing the world what we're capable of. Keep showing them how powerful we are." And you know what? The next few days, you're going to get that chance. And you keep working for your dreams. When you go home and you keep working, you keep going after them. You might have times where you lose hope and confidence. But you always remember that blood that runs through your veins and in your heart is that of a warrior people that never gave up. And we are warriors of love and happiness and goodness and kindness. And we are going to show the world what we're capable of. And I believe that you will see a Mi'kmaq, not just one Olympian. You're going to see many, many Mi'kmaq Olympians. And I'm here to support that and help any way I can. And you never know. If you keep fighting and you keep never quitting, you might find yourself one day walking into the Olympic Games as a captain of a team. And I hope to see that day. So thank you very much, and Nyawagoa for letting me have this opportunity. Let's go, Mi'kmaq athletes. Let's make these Nova Scotia Mi'kmaq Summer Games awesome. Show them how it's done.